Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Hello Miss Tina as our lecture today, teaching learning strategy. So we are from group 6 and we are going to present our presentation about blended learning. Before going to the presentation, let us introduce ourselves. Our team members, they are Fauzan Zuhair, Amirrullah Ramadhani, my Amelia, and Nurulita, Aulia, Tasya. So let's directly move on to our presentation. First is introduction, which will be presented by our friends Nurulita and Tasya. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Maya. The recent rapid development of information technology, including the internet and the internet, have been a major impact of many aspects of everyday life. The way of life of people and societies in the industrial regions of the world. One of those aspects in education, technological advance and wide availability. Access from PC, internet, and network. E-learning, also known as distance learning or distance learning, has been born out of the internet web-based learning. Many companies and government departments, e-learning has been adopted to train employees and inform their business. Partners and clients, universities, and other types of school, including vocational school, informal community education of university. E-learning has been adapted to some extent to supplement or enhance this traditional classroom lesson by an instructor. People have adopted their own e-learning as a tool of self-study on a broad range of the topic of interest. Various use traditional teacher classroom learning has been proven effective means of learning with of opportunity for interactions among students. Teachers and students, promotion exam and homework pressures, building relationships with students, however, requiring students are in the classroom on set days and times, which just makes it possible. Difficult for some students in additions to this, the lack of equipment in the classroom make it difficult for teachers to teach certain subjects effectively. The technology enhanced learning can help limitation of traditional classroom learning. There are many types of learning, from degree granting online universities to professional school certificates program, and the job training programs. Instructor overlays of the PowerPoint page for those who watch their computer or search for material on the internet on some interesting topics. However, pure e-learning has its own limit, depending on the type of e-learning and the content of the e-learning. This may include absent teachers, poor creative writing, or inconsistent material. More complicated by missing one mentors, lack of deadline pressure, which often leads to this low learning efficiency. Else, both traditional classroom learning and e-learning have our advantage and suffer from limitations. It's natural to combine with them. The advantage of both in the blended learning. In this sense, you can say blended learning is the most natural form of learning today. Traditional learning in the classroom requires research or the least careful thought. Faced down by trainers of generation to generations, making it effective for learning. Likewise, research is still need to realize the full potential of e-learning. Blended learning still requires additional research to achieve combination. Make traditional classroom learning and e-learning as effective as possible. Blended learning is the most logical and natural projection of our learning agenda. It presents an elegant solution to the challenge of tailored learning and development too. Individual needs, it represents of opportunity to combine the innovations and the technological advancement refinement offered by online learning with the interactions and the engagement that provide the best of traditional learning. It can be supported and improved by using wisdom on personal touch coach. Blended learning is also a teaching method where students use electronic and online media to learn. In addition to traditional face-to-face learning, critical applies to the practice of using both online and face-to-face learning experience in teaching. It's enough from me. Thank you, Maya.
All right. Thank you, Tasya, for your explanation about the introduction of blended learning. So next is the principles of the method of blended learning, which will be presented by me. So there are 7 principles of blended learning method. First is designed for open communication and trust. So the goal of this principle is to build the atmosphere, the learning atmosphere, to become an open communication, and then it push student to trust another student. So and then the second is designed for critical reflection and discourse. So the goal of this one, it is to make student to help them to reflect, because online learning or blended learning itself, it's easier to help students having a reflection, because uh, we have recording classroom, permanent recording, so that can be used for students to reflect. And then the third, create sustained sense of community. Uh, as we know that virtual contact makes students become more independent, because they just sit in front of their computer alone, so they're like just studying alone. So the goal of this principle is to help students to maintain so that they have a sense of community, so they feel like they also being part of the community. And then the fourth one is support purposeful inquiry. Uh, as you know that having online discussion forum also is not a familiar thing to students. It is really new to students. So that's why the teacher is challenged to push and guide students to be more active in discussion, because yes, as we know that maybe following the discussion will will beneficial for student, but make student to contribute in the discussion. It helps them to create to build their critical thinking. But here in this
Mir,
principle, actually collaborate to directly teaching. The first is ensure student sustain collaboration. A limited times in the face-to-face learning give a fewer opportunities for students to having discussion, to active in discussion. So it is make student lose it is make student to be more independent in learning, and then also less collaborative. So that the important point here is that teacher helps student to maintain collaboration and sense of community, so that student could focus and contribute to discussion, and they are responsible for their learning. And then here also direct teaching is needed, is required, but it cannot be too much because it makes students undermine their learning, their responsibility of learning. The primary role of direct teaching itself is just to ensure that discourse and collaboration is evolved in constructive and purposeful ways. And then six, ensure that inquiry moves to resolution, and that metacognitive awareness is developed. Here, as I mentioned in the first principle in design for open communication and trust, it is help students to trust and also to have open communication. As I said, that it is same as building the students' curiosity, and it will be really help students because they need to solve problem into the resolution, and that resolving that problem needs uh, needs their curiosity, so that helps student to explore much more about the problem and can resolve them. And also it is give them uh, to be that metacognitive awareness. And the last one is ensure assessment is congruent with intended learning outcomes. So as we know that since blended learning is facilitates students to use internet, so in this principle that it is suggest to assess the student by only assess them for their depth understanding, not just a factual recall. Because if it is not about their understanding, they could use the internet, and it is the assessment will not be effective, and it is too risky. So that's from me about the principle of the method. And then next one is teacher and student roles, which will be presented by Kak Fauzan. Time is yours.
Thank you, Maya, for the time. Here I will share about the teacher and students role. I have some points that teacher and student have to concern about in this method of blended learning. For this time, I will come first with the teacher's role. The first one is develop material. Teacher have to develop the material in order to build students interesting in learning. In this method of blended learning, teacher have to prepare a tailored material for this method for both whether it is face-to-face learning or online learning. It can be a video lesson or online learn. It can be a video lesson or some interesting online quizzes and others. Second one is involve students in the learning process. The student's involvement in this learning process of blended learning is important. Teacher have to involve to teacher have more to involve students in the learning process. Tip to improve students' critical thinking and helping others by sharing their knowledge and understanding, such as through a presentation. Next one is provide more assistance in the students' learning process. In this method, students may have find any obstacles in the learning process. So by that, teacher should often ask the student related to their understanding, also to what extent which students have learned, how far have students have been learning in this method. Next one is identify students' need. Teacher have to recognize what students need and have to identify whether the style of this learning is already met with students' need. The last one is build a collaborative learning. Teacher have to build a collaborative learning by providing communication or a forum discussion outside the lesson hour in order to share or to ask anything related to the lesson. Okay, next one. I will come with the students' role. The first one is developing their knowledge. Student must to develop their knowledge by actively engage, interacting with other students, and always ask for the clarification about their understanding about the materials. Next one is improve their skills. Students have be able to improve their skill, such as communication skills, observing, listening, questioning, and giving feedbacks. Next one is internet utilization. Students have be able to find any information beside the lesson, beside in the class, from the internet or the web-based learning platform. So it can be an insight of their knowledge, and in order to not depend on the material that only provided by the teacher, because in this methods, students are required to be more interactive and active in the learning process. The last one is explore the material. Student are student can be able to explore further or share about the material that have been learned in the class by taking an advantage of the that provided by the teacher that I have mentioned before. Maybe that's all for me. I will give back to the moderator.
Alright, thank you, Kak Fauzan. Let's move to another slide. It is technical quiz, which will be presented by Amirrullah. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Maya, for the time for me. Okay, next I will explain about the technique or the application of this method. In this method, there are divided into four models. Okay, the first model is about the rotation model. The rotation model is one of often used in the blended learning, where online and offline learning are applied alternately. Students take full face-to-face learning, or usually can be called traditional way, and the next meet they take the online section. And the rotation model can be divided into several models. There are the station rotation, lab rotation, flip classroom, and individual rotation. Okay, I will explain each of the rotation model. The first is station rotation. In this station rotation, learning is held alternately online and offline in study groups. The study group can consist of the whole class or can be the teacher divided the student to the smaller group, study group. And when the time the student do online learning, student access the subject through the online section, and the teacher can instruct the student what should do. Just not only the read the material or the journal, the teacher can also instruct like work skill, project assignment, or assess something, or can be the discussion forum. Through online learning like this, student will have the opportunity to learn independently and free from pressure on class, especially just like how they should present to their learning to the other student. And for the offline activities, just like usually group face-to-face usual, and the material for the this meeting can be the next material, or can be the different material on in online learning. Okay, for the simulation of this section rotation, I will be the teacher. I will be the teacher in here. You can take a look for this picture about the station rotation. Okay. The teacher will. I'm the teacher, and I will decided to the study group will be the whole class. I'm not. I will not the decide divide the student. I will give the study groups is all the class. And for the for the first meeting, I will give the material in the online learning, the online section. And of course, the instruction are is the student should read the journal about the descriptive text, the example, the descriptive text, and the student should analyze it and should read the all the journal about it, and that's it. And for the next meeting, it's about the offline section class. The student should go to the class and face to face with me. And for I will depending the subject. I will depending the subject, and the student should uh, make the text about the descriptive text, and also each student should uh, switch the text and analyze it of the text. Just that the simulation of the session rotation. Okay, I will move for the next one about the lab rotation. The lab rotation model is almost the same like the stationary model I said before. The difference is the lab rotation. Online learning, the online learning section is held on the computer laboratory, while in the station rotation model learning, uh, in the online section, the student can be held anywhere the student go, and that's the difference on of the lab rotation and the session rotation. The advantage of this model is that the teacher can easily take control or the student in the laboratory. And online learning is generally difficult for the teacher to control the student, because the student can maybe can open the anything outside of the subject of the lesson or the material. So with this activity held in the computer lab during the online section, the teacher should be this will be the great idea for the take control and take keep a track for the student and what the student do in there. And to be able to apply this rotary lab model, the teacher should the school should need the laboratory facilities and the good management of the schedule. Okay, for the simulation of this those post this model is just like the session rotation, but I will give some case in here. I will be the teacher, and the first section I will do online learning in the laboratory. I will give like before, I will give the journal about the descriptive text to the teacher and to the student, and the student should learn about the journal. Okay, about the learn about the journal, and they should research for other research for the journal. And for the next meeting, will be in the class, not the laboratory. And in the class, the student should make the also should write the text descriptive and should analyze it by himself, just like that. That's not different like the session rotation, right? Just got different in the laboratory, the computer laboratory. Okay, for the uh, next model is about flipped classroom. Okay, the flipped classroom is a blend learning model, which is student study before the class. They should study the material first at home and according to the instruction given by the teacher. Okay, this method can also be used by teacher where there are some student who not present in the class for some reason, and that's the good situation for the teacher use this flipped classroom. And in for the implementation, the flipped classroom begin with the teacher giving the assignment or material what student must do at home related to the subject and topic that will be discussed at the next meeting. And the teacher give instructions such reading material, making resume, and etc. And for that is just like the other model. Okay. In this learning model, students required to be more independently because they study the material first before they are do the meeting in class. This model also makes students more active because their curiosity is also higher. Okay, for the simulation, just like before, but the difference is this will use oftenly because this model will take place in a home and for the main activity in the classroom. Okay, for the example like this, uh, one day before the classroom, the teacher will give the material to the student, some I think some journal about the descriptive text for the student, and the student should learn more about that journal in the home before going to the class in the next day. Okay, for the next day, the activity just like before, making the some text about descriptive text and should analyze it with each student. That was simulation for the flip classroom. And for the next one is about sorry. Okay. For the next one is about individual rotation. This is the last of the rotation model. Okay. Individual rotation model, student help learning through the offline and online individually. According to the needs, learning experience of individual student, with this way, student have freedom to study the material according to their abilities or skill and depending on the study of group, not the study of group. Okay, in this model, uh, really suitable for the student who have more abilities or more step ahead for another student, or can be for the student who got lagging for the material got it. And for the simulation, uh just like this, I'm the teacher. I will provide the material in online section, and also I will provide for the offline section. Okay. For the decided is of course for the student. Uh, that means the teacher should have more effort for this because the teacher should provide it two section in this model. Just like I will give the instruction in the LMS, like the example is an LMS. I will give instruction for the student should read the journal, should make the the text, and also the student should analyze some text about the descriptive text. And also for the offline section is the same of like the online section, but for the offline section will be I will provide some discussion forum for the offline section for the student who have some difficulty of their learning about the descriptive text. That's why for this model, I think offline section is for the student who want to get more deepen about the subject, and the online learning for just student who got for the subject and just want to got the material from the teacher. That's for the simulation for individual. Okay, I will move for the second model. Is about self-blend model. In the self-blend model is one of the blended learning model where student can take online learning to deepen the material, or can be just the additional material for the student. In this model, face-to-face learning, or usually can be the traditional way, is still the main activity for the student. Okay, the offline section is still the main activity for the student, and online learning just for the complement, or can be just for the additional material, or can be for add some new insight for the student. Okay, in this self blend learning model can be used an option for school if they cannot provide the material or course in design for the student. Okay, for the simulation, I will give this two case. I will give some two case in this model. First, the student uh, got got the student do the offline class, and in some point the student don't really get about the definition, or can be some example from the teacher, and the student is choosing the online learning for the additional material for him, or by himself. Okay, that's for the first case, and the second case can be the student not joining the offline class, the online section, or can be the student just join the half of the meeting, not the full meeting, and for the rest meeting, or the rest of the material, the student will choosing for the online learning for the additional material for him. That's for the simulation, I guess, for the self-blend model. For the third model is about virtual enrich model, and this model learning activity is held on in online rather than the traditional way. The students spend more time studying at home. Face-to-face learning is just for the additional. Nah, this mean in this model, the main activity for the student is the online section, the online learning, and for the traditional way or the face-to-face learning is just the addition or for the complement for the student. Okay, for the and also for the face-to-face learning is can be take while the student got problem or some problem in the online section or in online learning. Okay, for the simulation is about like uh, the student do the online learning section. Okay, online learning section, and this and the teacher will provide the student about once in a week for the offline section. Okay, just like that about the simulation, I guess. And for the last model is about the flexible model. Okay, In this flexible model, most of the learning is held on online class, but still take place in school. The student can access all subject material either independently or individually in groups online, so that the learning will be more flexible. Students can learn according to their abilities, needs, and learning speed. In this flex model, the teacher can act like the facilitator through the discussion session, or can be the project work, or can be the group tutoring. In this implementation, the flex model need a good planning and preparation. There also need facilities for the student to be able to discuss directly with the teacher in online way. When they got some problem in learning, the key in this model is the teacher facilities about flexible learning for the student, but still priority the interaction between student and the teacher during the learning activities. Students work individually and learn to develop their self, and the teacher acts the mentor for the student. Okay, for this lesson, for this model, I think this will be very difficult for understanding. Okay, for the main activity is online section, but the online section is take place in the school. Yeah, we can take a look about the picture in here. Uh, as you can see, this many of table on here and many section of here. We have some break room about the explanation of the teacher. In here we can see the science lab, we can see the collaboration room. In that mean this very flexible for the student. Is very flexible for the student. The student can choose about we can go to the explanation room, we can do the collaborative room, and we can do the online learning section for just the reading the journal or something. Okay, that's for me for the techniques and application for the blended learning. I will give to the moderator. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for Amirrullah for your presentation. So right now it's a critical analysis. I will read the critical analysis. As blended learning has two different types of learning activities, the classroom and online activities. To support those activities, there are some aspects that must be considered. Mainly, it is the students' access to the material that will be learned and how the material is delivered. For online learning, it has definitely been related to technology. How is technology integrated into the learning process? The technology tool that provides information and a lot of activities, such as the LMS, students can do a lot of activities starting from filling the attendance, learning materials, discussing, and giving feedback, etc. Students also can easily access the tools since each of them has a login access to the system. So in conclusion, the blended learning is applicable in ELP. And that's all from our group. Thank you so much. So if you have any question, feel free to ask. That's all. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.